There. They were on
Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is the regular board meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. It's 9 o'clock. I would ask that you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We have our full board of county commissioners. The chairman has asked that I run this meeting as he had to be remote today, so Commissioner Mullen is online. We have our clerk of the board, our administrator, and would ask for a motion to adopt the current agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the current agenda as presented.
Commissioner Mullen, are you able to hear us? I'll second the motion. So the motion is second for adoption of the current agenda. Any corrections or adjustments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is adopted, and would ask the clerk if you would just check and see about Commissioner Mullen there. Thank you. That brings us to public comment in our agenda. Anybody who would have public comment, you're welcome to come forward to the mic, and you have 3 minutes for public comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Marcy Torres from Franklin County. I wanted to let you guys know this week I received several calls from a parent that is currently going through a family court case where Pat Quaddle actually helped the mom escape. There had already been a hearing that was scheduled, and she requested for an extension, allowing the mom to flee to Hawaii with this child. And now Pat Quaddle has been releasing files from his girlfriend's case to the mother of this girl. You're not allowed to do that as an attorney. So we are going to be bringing grievances against her. What these people are doing, there's nothing legal about it. Judges know. They're all in on this. There is so much corruption going on, so much fraud, that they know that what they're doing is wrong. Releasing people's information, files with social security numbers, addresses, information. And I want to put that on the record, because if anything happens to Mindy, Pat Quaddle will be responsible for it. Not only did she release her file to this woman, also she tried to threaten the father. If Mindy didn't remove a post that was shared about the mom fleeing to Hawaii with this little girl, that he would be losing custody forever, and that Pat Quaddle would make sure that Mindy was reported. I don't know where she's going to report her to. I don't know what anybody else's case has to do with his case. But the fact of the matter is that she is helping to alienate this child and helped the mom to escape to Hawaii, knowing that there was an active case. So I want to put that on the record. This is not okay. We will not continue to put up with this. And there's grievances coming forward. There's a lot of stuff that these judges know that is happening. Norma Rodriguez is aware because she's been part of it. She did the same exact thing when she was going through a divorce with her children. File protection orders, claim abuse, all while now her sister, all of the sudden prior to her taking the bench, became the director of domestic violence. Now they're profiting off of domestic violence while she sits on the bench and signs ex parte orders for DVPOs. That's not okay. That's called extortion. That you're extorting your citizens.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Thank you, Commissioners. A couple things. First, there was someone who came to the mic that I just, last meeting, that I just want to correct the record. When they stated that our assessor had to overassess properties because the commissioners raised taxes, I wanted to clarify that our commissioners have not raised our taxes. And that the settlement with Mr. Gonzalez, AKA Kronmeyer, was actually not voted by Commissioner Didier. It was voted in by the other two commissioners. So somehow all of that vitriol was pointed at him, and I just wanted to correct the record on that. The other thing, just some information. As I have said, that I think, I have a cousin, first of all, he graduated Gonzaga Law School. He was worked in the prosecuting attorney's office in King County, just recently retired. But I know that it's important to keep the courts and the attorney's office as neutral. Any appearance of any conflict needs to be protected. You're protecting the people, you're protecting the courts, and you're protecting the reputation of the attorney's office when you do that. And that is why I pushed for recusal. I think it's interesting, instead of sending the case for this young man to Walla Walla, like the sheriff's case was done, it was sent up to Bob Ferguson. Not understanding, or his attorney general, Mr. Brown. So I'm not sure how that came about. But I will say that when I was at the hearing for the auditor on Ms. Torres, I was there because of Rick Weiss had filed a voter challenge, and he wanted me there. He has PTSD. He's a veteran, and all it said was he could bring a counselor. Well, Mr. Briggs said, obviously that means a legal counselor. Well, no, I mean, my cousin's a psychologist. She's a counselor. There's all sorts of counselors. A friend can be a counselor. So that's what he read it as being. So wanted to point that out, and then wanted to point out, too, that after the hearing was over, Mr. Briggs went over and gave Nikki a high five. And that, again, shows the conflict. The prosecuting attorney had a case for a young man that they claimed was stalking her. That should have been his recusal, as well as the fact that he is obviously friends with Nikki Torres. Should also have been a recusal, but also because he represents the commissioners. So I just wanted to point those things out, that it's very important that we have no appearance of wrongdoing or conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody further for public comment?
Good morning. Part of the grant that I accepted has a requirement that I come in and speak with the commissioners each month, just to kind of give you an update on what we're doing, so that they understand that I'm letting you know, so that we can all kind of work together. So we did start a pilot program for driving license suspended third degree. What we're doing is we're continuing cases out for a specific period of time with the goal of getting people relicensed. If they get relicensed, they're going to get a favorable resolution, likely a dismissal, potentially an infraction, depending on the number of charges that they have. The requirement is that they have less than 4 driving license suspendeds to qualify. If there's some situations that maybe would make them qualify, but it's kind of on the cusp of things, I can make a judicial ruling that they are allowed. But the real goal here is to get people licensed so that they're insured, so that individuals out there on the roadway are also protected. We can assist with, you're suspended in a third degree because of child support, unpaid infractions that are in collections, warrants. There's civil liability that we can assist in getting people a payment plan through the insurance company or an individual who is suspended, or holding their license based on that suspension. And then SR22 insurance. So we are kind of connecting with all of these different agencies and courts to kind of figure out how to get people licensed here in our communities so that everyone is safe. We do not allow individuals with a CDL. If we were to do so, that would be considered masking. their case would be dismissed. That would be a violation of federal law, and that could be a problem for us. We currently have, well, before court this morning, we had 17 referrals. We now have 18. We have kicked 2 people out already. We started about 3 weeks ago. So that's 17 individuals, or 15 now, who are not using public defense. So we're saving all of those points, which is going to be beneficial to the community and to our county. And in, 3 weeks of the program, we already have somebody who's relicensed, which includes insured. So we're doing a good job. I will come back every month and just give you an update on what our numbers are and how we're doing. And if you have any questions about it at some point, I can always get on the agenda and we can kind of discuss it in greater detail. But I wanted to make sure that I was following through with my contractual obligations to the state and also let you guys know what we're doing.
That's helpful. Thank you, Judge. Anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Board. I just want to clarify something that was said just earlier by Ms. Hatch. I did not high-five Ms. Torres. I've never met Nikki Torres before. I obviously know who she is, but I take my responsibilities on the canvassing board very seriously. And I would just say if the members, the challengers, have an issue with the canvassing board's decision, they have the right to appeal that.
Thank you. Anybody further for public comment?
Good morning, Marie Redout, Richland resident. I was at that hearing and he did not high five, so that's baloney. I wanted to talk about what the problems that I'm seeing that we're having in our court systems, in the family court. There's the allegations of criminal conduct that are coming out. During that time frame, it's through civil, okay? With those allegations, they're ordinarily going to require an investigation. If you've got a criminal allegation against somebody, your normal process is you call law enforcement, you say, hey, this happened, I need to report it. Law enforcement's supposed to take the report and go from there. When these allegations are made in family court does not have the ability to investigate. They just make a ruling based on what the commissioner, based on what the attorney presents to the commissioner. Okay, so they're just going off the cuff right there saying, well, this allegation came forward and I'm making a finding on it. It's supposed to be in writing. Many times it is not because they don't have anything to back it up. There is no investigation. There's nothing for it. So if you have an investigation under criminal law, you're going to have a beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil court is supposed to be a preponderance. Oftentimes it's less than that, it's gossip, it's hearsay, it's just an allegation. But in criminal court, we know that there's a higher evidentiary standard that is required. That is something that we should look at in our family courts. You're taking away, you're blurring those lines, not you specifically, commissioners. I'm referring to the courts itself in family court. They're blurring those lines about what can be ruled on for your cases when you're going to remove the kids. They're not going to go after a criminal charge. They're just going to remove the kids or make a decision. This Thursday in Thurston County, there's a case there, and it's going to be the Coleman case. It's going to be a big case coming up, and there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come forward with that. And what we're finding out is that the judges, the commissioners, they're making these derogatory comments to these parents saying, in this case, what I decide is going to determine whether you get to see your kids ever again. And those are the kind of statements that they're not supposed to be doing that. That's not your threats. That's not how you rule. That's not how you create public trust. And it's definitely not something that we want to see continuing to happen. If there's criminal allegations, we want those looked at by law enforcement. I don't want a commissioner taking a ruling based on something an attorney alleges and taking away children. I don't think anybody wants that. I think we want a higher standard there, and that's something I think that we would like to work on. The Due Process Project is something that we're going to work on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Michelle Andrews, citizen of Franklin County. I've been looking into some of this stuff because it's gone on quite a bit, and the RCW's revised codes under 13 I think is where there needs to be an inspection of due process. If that is not the case, you are able to be on steering committees, and they're loading up right now for the legislative session to look at that. So I would definitely start thinking about a collaborative committee, a workshop together, looking at those things, because our community and the judges are caught under those laws. And of course, we don't have a very nice executive branch in this state. So I think that there's some work that the citizens can do and do legitimately and actually have a reconciling situation for our families, because there's something going on, and I've seen it in other jurisdictions. As to the claims of the high five, yes, I was also there. I was also there when somebody claimed to be an attorney, and then she had to back down. You're not a counselor. You don't have any degree of any kind, and I have the floor. So, no, you don't. And so I will just say that everything she does publicly is to defame people, and there will be an account for that one day. And that's why I objected so strenuously last week, because she's a part of his PAC, and she attacks anyone she wants. She's done it to me multiple times. I've forgiven it. I've prayed for her. I've tried to work. There's just something wrong. And I stood side by side with her and said I wanted clean elections, because I can do that. And when she came up here and started talking about this, and that's what we really want. We do want clean elections. We do want reconciliation when things go wrong. I mean, you're listening to the Mr. Fauci, and Rand Paul outlined it beautifully. He said, I want you to come apologize, take responsibility, and start recommending things that need to be done because of what you did. And Fauci's just standing there in his pride. And for those of us that do respect the wonderful word of God, is that pride goes before a fall, a big fall. I love Franklin County. I love the people here. I love the people who have come to work for us. I truly do. Even through disagreements. It's not so much of being immune to it and my own feelings and trying to work through things together. This is exactly how our country was made. They didn't agree on everything. But when they did come together, even just a few people, they stood very strongly. And if you would entertain that workshop that would make us immune from anybody ever coming in and taking our Bill of Rights away, you will not regret it. But I will have to send that and ask to redress grievances. It is not limited to a 3-minute public comment or a vote at the ballot box or a few comments on our legislative session. The people have a right to bring any petition in any form to their local legislators and have them heard. Thank you.
Is there anybody further for public comment?
So Brian Thornhill, Franklin County. I stated last time, so it was about 3 weeks ago, that I'm ready to move on with my life, but I'm still going to get my point across, that I'm still frustrated with some of the decisions you made, and I know it upset Commissioner Mullen. I just think some of the decisions you guys have made have been taken on without knowing the full context of what you were deciding on. So I'm going to sort of beaten this one up a little bit, but I'm going to go back to the takeover of the security and courthouse. So one of the commissioners has repeatedly emphasized the amount of time, effort, and personal commitment he has invested in programs that the county has assumed responsibility for. He has publicly discussed improvement being made within the jail, and has even stated that he is willing to spend some of his own money on activities such as pizza parties, intended to improve morale for the inmates. I recognize and appreciate that any effort to improve operations of the jail or the well-being of those housing there is important. However, I struggle to reconcile those same priorities with the county decision to end the Benton County Juvenile Justice Agreement. By moving the Franklin County Juvenile to Spokane, it appears that many of the families and attorneys now face greater challenges in maintaining regular contact with those juveniles. Families' involvement is widely recognized as an important part of successful rehabilitation. What I find difficult to understand is why it appears that such a strong emphasis on improving the experience of adult inmates in the county jail, while at the same time accepting decisions that make rehabilitation and family involvement more difficult for juveniles. The county believes that maintaining relationships, improving morale, and investing additional time and resources are worthwhile goal for adult inmates, shouldn't those same principles receive at least the same consideration for young people who are still formative stages of their lives? So I might repeat a little bit. During those discussions with people out of other agencies, one thing that continues to come up is the rehabilitation programs that were available in Benton County Juvenile Justice Center. So there was quite a few. Those programs include treatment, education, and other services designed to help young people successfully rehabilitate, return to their communities. By moving juveniles to Spokane, it appears that many of the Franklin County families and attorneys now have much greater burden in maintaining regular contact with those juveniles. So repeat it. Family involvement is widely recognized as an important part of juvenile rehabilitation. At the same time, Franklin County allows adult inmates and the county to maintain contact with their families through visitation and communication opportunities. The county has also discussed implementation of programs intended to improve inmate welfare and communication, such as providing access to technology and services. My question is about priorities. If maintaining family connections is considered important for adult inmates, thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Revis, Franklin County. Mr. Danzo, I've been waiting 2 weeks to say this. You've been gone. 2 weeks ago, as a tradition, I took my daughter out for her birthday. She pulled up here to drop me off and was exclaiming about how beautiful the courthouse was. And I know you've talked about it a lot, and I thought you might appreciate hearing that from the community. And a few weeks ago, was talked about leaving it up to Veterans Day, and I think that's a great idea. I appreciate the thinking of the veterans that way too. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought you'd appreciate that. I want to follow up on what Mrs. Redout was saying about the court system and the off the cuff rulings from a court commissioner keeping children from their families for indefinite amount of time, and a little bit of the mode of operation of how they work. She was talking about the separation of civil and criminal complaints and the burden of proof. And one of the first things that your attorney the state attorney will tell you when you walk into a family court is that the burden of proof in family court is a lot lower than criminal. So there's no point in you even trying to fight it, because there's a very low burden of proof. Hearsay is accepted in family court. But then what they do is they go on to threaten you with criminal charges if you don't comply with their agenda. If you don't do what they want you to, well, we're considering filing criminal charges in criminal court if you don't do this. If you want to see your children, you better comply, so we don't file criminal charges. Or they'll say, well, if you separate from your spouse, maybe you can get your children back. So maybe you should try separating from your spouse. This is not about family. It's not a family court. And, you know, I spoke last week about the complex post-traumatic stress disorder that these people experience from this. I personally know a young lady right now that is facing criminal charges in 3 counties. She's not even 21 years old yet. She'll turn 20 next month. And she's facing criminal charges in Franklin County, in Benton County, and in Walla Walla County. She's a product of the family court system. And I was just reading an article on the way in here about a guy that the court of public opinion has already condemned him. And that's what we deal with in family court, is the court of public opinion, not facts.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room for public comment? Seeing no further, we'll close public comment. I will make a point of saying that Commissioner Mullen has been online and muted since the beginning of public comment. So thank you for that. Mr. Commissioner, I would entertain a motion on our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 10.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second for the 10 items on our consent agenda. Is there any questions or comments on these? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. That takes us to regular business. This is a presentation. So, Mr. Pearson, if you would come forward, you guys are welcome to come sit at the desk if you would like. So we are going to have a presentation by the U.S. Department of Ag Rural Development. It's presented by Kirk Pearson, the Washington State Director of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Philip Eggman, the Director of Public Engagement and Congressional and Tribal Liaison for both Oregon and Washington. And he's also with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for coming, and look forward to your presentation today.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and thank you for letting us come back. And we wanted to come back, especially because when I came back to the U.S. Department of Agriculture over a year ago, Phil and I were talking how best can we serve our state, and so we decided to do a road trip, and with that, kind of a cannonball run, but we wanted to get assessments going around to all counties across the state of Washington, how government is serving them. And we didn't go far until we came here, and you were gracious to let us do a presentation over a year ago, and then you're all gracious enough to have us get out and meet the real folks. And I'll tell you, that was very eye-opening for myself and Phil, and we ended up leaving that day thinking, you know what, I think we're on to something, and thus we decided to put together, with your help, a coalition. And in doing that, it was an interesting year because we were under a furlough for a full month, and that kind of tightened up. But I want to thank you all for your resilience, because when we came back, it was January, and it was either, you call it do or die time, and you gave us the green light. And I will thank our other federal agencies that we got to know, and they all loved the idea of coming to Pasco and doing this. So a little bit about the outcome since, and I'm going to talk a little about the highlights, and Phil has something to give all of you. But we had great outcomes. We had the event that you graciously helped us put together in March. We had over 335 people from all over the West, Eastern Washington mainly, and Eastern Oregon cities and counties. I think the mayor of Lewiston, Idaho, came all the way out, and some other county commissioners from Idaho, folks from Montana. We had people from Washington, D.C. come out too. And in doing this, we were able to put together quite a good coalition of folks and presenters, and I will say what happened, it gained national attention with that. And with that, after I made the presentation to my colleagues and my superiors within the Department of Agriculture, other state directors contacted Phil and I and asked us how to put this together. Happy to say in September, the state of Montana is doing a big event just like what we are doing. Florida and Ohio and other states, they're looking at doing something very similar. Well, since we put that together, we had like 9 federal agencies joining us, plus a couple of states, State Department of Veterans Affairs, and even locally, the Columbia Basin Veterans Center, Chris Dare. Was a real help to us too. But since that time, we've gained new partners. And going back, the idea of this too was, if rural development, if we can't help you with 70 of our different programs, someone should be able to know something. And that was the idea behind this. And what Phil and I have learned through this, there are other federal agencies that like the Small Business Administration, they have this type of program, they have that type of grant. HUD has different programs, and we want to make that available to the public. And we invested, I'll say a lot of time. We called just about, I had my staff call about every county clerk in Eastern Washington, than we did in Eastern Oregon, especially the small towns, because we are a rural organization. But word got out. My state director of Oregon, my colleague, he was very active in this, and he had just tremendous outcomes. We did a survey afterwards for those who came and what they thought about the presentations, the breakouts, everything about this. And so it really, we were very pleased, and nationally very pleased how it turned out. Since then, we've gained new partnerships with FEMA. They're going to be participating with our new our federal partners group, the Maritime Administration. I didn't even know we had a maritime. I knew we had maritime, but a new administration that has millions and billions of dollars of grants and programs for rural ports. I've learned this, and since then I've gotten to be a part of their meetings, and even more recently, Department of Energy. And I know Department of Energy is very big in this area, but they have a new special engagement program, and I just this last week talked to their National Director of Engagement, and who wants to participate with us and will be a new federal partner. So we're really excited about that. And since then, too, Phil and I, since we're kind of road warriors, we've been reaching out to our smaller communities in Western Washington, too, and letting them know what we're doing with this federal partnership and resource, and how we can all kind of be together. And it's been a very, very positive experience. But I want you all to know it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for your help in Franklin County. You all were the inspiration for us to go ahead with that, and we just are very grateful for that, because sometimes people say government, they don't all work together. Well, from the federal level to the county commissioners, and even to cities and port districts, and we did something, and you joined in with us without really knowing us and figuring what are these guys up to. So we're very grateful that you put in the time with us, and we're very grateful to do this for you. And I'm going to turn it over to Phil. I want him to talk a little bit about the resource guide and our next steps, and why we're kind of back over in this area, because we want to build this bigger and stronger, and it's starting to grow with new federal agencies, as I mentioned, that have joined our coalition. So, Phil, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. It is really a pleasure to be back here with you guys. He's right, Kirk's right. The genesis of it just seems kind of dumb that the federal government doesn't really talk to each other. We're so vast, so many departments, so many agencies, all with resources, and yet we don't communicate. I have to give you guys the gold star, because you are the teachers in the room. I've worked for the federal government in one capacity or another for the last 50 years. 27 years as a DoD public affairs officer, and then, of course, for the last 24 years working for USDA Rural Development and Public Relations, liaison communication. And one thing I find is that, if you call somebody in the federal government asking for help and they can't help you there, they say, sorry, we can't help you. And a lot of times the conversation ends right there. And that's it. And then, these poor people, our constituents, our fellow Americans, are trying to find help for things. They have questions for things. And the whole genesis of this is, why don't we start working together to answer those questions? Oh. I thought it was loud enough and annoying enough.
That's better, thank you.
Okay, good. See, you're my teacher, Commissioner. The mayor, and is it Calotis? Did I say that right? He said it would be great, and he said it facetiously, that if you guys could all be in the same room, maybe we could get our questions asked a lot faster. And it was like, whoa, yeah, why don't we get all of these feds in the same room so that when these towns and communities have questions, they can be answered? And that's what this is, a federal partners coalition, working together like we should have always been doing. And I'm not slamming the feds. We just get wrapped up in our own worlds, and so we stovepipe. So what we've done is we came together last March here in Franklin County. You hosted us, and we did get 335 various people representing communities, commissioners, states for that matter, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, on the eastern side mostly. And we were able to kind of have that speed dating opportunity in that very beginning of that event at the HAPO Center, to where we were able to briefly say, this is what our agency offers. And then later on, it was where the magic happened. It was the outreach. It was the lunch, people sitting around breaking bread and talking and learning and growing. And since that time, we've actually been talking to more communities on the west side of our state, trying to tell them about this particular coalition and what it means. We created a resource, what it is here. It lists the different agencies that joined us, who are a part of us, and we're still working on getting more to join us. Kirk didn't mention, I don't think, but Department of Energy has joined us. They have billions of dollars available for tribes to do with, I guess, waste as far as wooded material. We have tribes in our state that need those resources but don't know they exist. That's the funny part about it. Money that's sitting in there that people don't know exists. So the goal of this is to change that. If a town or a community or a county wanted to know about a particular program, we've created this resource where they would have a person who's committed in each federal agency to answer the question or be the police, not the police, but the traffic cop to direct them to the right agency. So that means that if you were to call me and I didn't really know what to do, I could call one of the people here and I could ask and find out on behalf of that mayor or on behalf of that county what resources are available and put them in touch with them. And they have committed to follow through, to not just say, sorry, I can't help you, but I think I know who can. The whole idea was, what is it, Miracle on 32nd Street? Where they didn't have it at Macy's, so they sent them to Gimbels. So that's what we're kind of trying to do now. We're trying to like really save time. Here's the issue with small towns. I'll use that. Rural communities do not have the capacity to get on the phone and try to find out what's available to them. You know, they just don't. A lot of times mayors are, you know, the dog catcher, and they're also doing the water systems, and they're doing all this stuff, some of these small communities. Some towns have more resources, but a lot of the small towns don't. So as a result of that, we're trying to give them more capacity and time. And we're also looking, believe it or not, for philanthropy partners that can help cover the cost of a grant, help cover the cost of a grant audit. That's one of the things we're working on now. That's the next steps. Find resources that are available to a small town, because grants are not cheap. I mean, and you pay for money to try to get a grant writer, and if you don't get the grant, that town loses that money. It's like gambling. So we're trying to help facilitate a better outcome for small communities. And that's really the whole point of things. Here's the other thing I learned when I came to Franklin County. It's kind of sad that took so long. When we drove around with you guys and met with your community, your constituents, it just came down to talking. It came down to, we didn't have things to help, but we were able to listen. And as a result, we were able to facilitate some answers and some solutions, even though they had nothing to do with our particular agency. It comes down to communicating with one another. It comes down to conversation, not an email that's sent out in mass, but one-on-one. And that's what we're doing now. We're going town by town, one-on-one, talking with city clerks and commissioner clerks, county clerks, because they're the gatekeepers, and then they connect us with the leadership and everything else. And that's the magic of it all. We're right now covering the west side. We're continuing to covering the east side. And we're hoping to be able to do this again. I'm saying in some form or whatever, we will continue to have an opportunity where we can bring their federal partners together and where we can bring communities together to ask their questions and to get some things done. So that's the outcome that came from here. And it is being mirrored in other states. That's what the beauty of it is. You guys started it, really, and we're not taking credit for it. You guys are the ones that opened the door and allowed us to kind of listen and then to hear what, again, that one mayor, why don't we all get in the same room and talk? That's what gets things done. So that's what we're doing. We're so grateful to you guys. You rock, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Didier.
Yeah, I just jotted down a few things here. First off, you guys are the road warriors. Which one of you is Mel Gibson? Second,
My wife wouldn't agree.
second, this is all about connections. We were able to bring this together because of Brian Danzel. We were so blessed to have this guy as our administrator. He knew you, Kirk. He knew you, and we got together, and then Commissioner Bauman, and we got to each have time with you out there in the community. And it's all about communication. It is a key to everything, not only in America, but in a marriage and everything. It's communication. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to interact. And what I want to say is thank you, because usually the federal government doesn't have the humility to come meet with the peasants down here in Franklin County. You did. Thank you. Thank you for coming and making us feel good and telling us what the opportunities are there. As far as the timberlands with the Native Americans, I love that, but as a landowner up in the Soton Valley, we had a fire a couple years ago, and I got to be honest with you, they don't fight fires, they manage fires, because if the fires get big enough, then the federal money comes in. I want fires to be fought. I want them to be stopped, because they managed to burn that right through my property. Now I got 23 slash piles, and I've put in for help to get those removed and to replant. But in the process, they want to know everything about my business, and why? Why do you need to know everything else about me? I've got a piece of property that burned. Are you going to help me or not? Do I have to reveal everything about myself in order to get help? Because if I do, I'm not going to do it. I'll do it on my own. And the last thing, was communication. And thank you for coming down to Franklin County and getting the ball rolling. It's about time that we all realize we, the people, are the government of this country.
Right.
We, the people. The first three words of the most powerful document ever put forth by mankind. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'd be remiss too, regarding the event. You have outstanding staff, and I think, of course, Brian, Teresa, and the team, and then the HAPL team. We've done many events and just professional all the way. Phil and I were just overwhelmed. But I wanted to add too, there were a few moments Phil and I were wondering, is this going to take off, and but you all made it happen. You kept your cool. You're all great poker players, but it was, we had a full house, so very happy about that.
Thank you. Please share.
Well, no pun on the full house. I just wanted to say that I think that you all are the gold star as well. So I see what's the old Humphrey Bogart line? I believe this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. And anything that we can do, or that my office and our office can do to help facilitate either bringing you back or putting people in touch with the right people. Just want to say thank you, and want to thank the commissioners for their wherewithal, because as Director Pearson said, it was kind of touch and go there for quite a few weeks there, and if it wasn't for our commissioners engaging and actually wanting to put this on, it wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for USDA Rural Development, it wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for Small Business Administration, it would have happened. So I guess I was just impressed that there was the humility.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And, all these, and you have it before you, all these people from these different federal agencies, some are presidential appointees like myself, and some are career folks, but they are all committed. They put down their phone number on this, so if you call them, and these are distributed to nonprofits too, because they, are recipients, but this is for your resource and for your help, so you know somebody. So that you're not going to go through a phone tree. And there's times that, even when we were state legislators trying to call someone from the federal government or try to call an agency, and it was like a kind of a phone tree, and you had to call your congressman to try to get through. And so we want to make things easier. We would like to, we're exploring doing this again not because of us, but these partners here, they want to do another event. And so we'd like to do one in the area again, but we're not. You've all been gracious, and this is a great area to put together. And there's an airport, and I've let the Secretary's office know, hey, love to have Secretary Rollins come out, but we'll see. But anyhow, we're committed to doing that, and especially I'm being directed as an appointee to get the outreach out and talk to rural America and make things happen. So this is what we know, and this is why we're on the road a lot. So.
Well, thank you. I want to share a couple of thoughts, Phil, something that you said that really means a lot to me. You talked about the mass email that goes out to everyone. It is so non-personal, and in a lot of cases it's unhelpful, because it's almost an effort to throw it on the wall to see what'll stick. And it's not very personal. It's not very helpful. And to put those phone numbers on that page is really helpful, because sometimes it just takes that one-on-one of what can I do and where can I go. And so I want to say thank you again to a number. So the Benton Franklin Council of Governments, TRIDEC, and the Port of Pasco that underwrote this and was host with us at the HAPO Center, that fed everybody, that was a big part of making that happen. And I just really appreciate them stepping up for that. And Brian and Teresa, for you guys for really keeping this thing kind of afloat, because we had a government shutdown right in the middle of it, and it was kind of touch and go there for a while. We had a plan, we had decided we were going to do it, and then that was thrown in the middle of it, and now what do you do? And so thank you to each of you. And then for the following up after the fact, because a lot of times that doesn't happen. And that's a really great example that you have set for us, is the follow-up, to follow up after the fact. And you're here, and this is follow-up. And so I would love to extend an invitation to you to come back to the HAPO Center and do this again. And this time we have a little bit more of an advantage because we have a little bit more time to prepare for that. I think the time of year was excellent, and want to certainly say thank you to my fellow commissioner. I think that what you seen that day was the reason that Clint and I are in these seats today, was that we were just trying to serve our community. And I really think that you got to see that on a first-hand basis. And really that's what you're doing, just from the federal agency, and we're at the county agency. It's just we're trying to do that. We're trying to serve our communities. And I think it meant a lot to a lot of the people there, because the conversation that the three of us had when we left Colotis, headed back to Pasco, just what is the mayor of Colotis supposed to do? Donate so much of his time. How are they supposed to do this, to even figure out who to talk to? So thank you for that tool that you've put together and all the effort that you've put in. And let's keep the team together, and let's do this again. I don't know how to do it. You got to see a lot of me not knowing how to do it, but we kept working on it, and together I think we had a successful event.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we have an outstanding federal team that would love to have the opportunity to do that again. And I don't brag on this guy enough, but Phil is federally my right arm. He's very proud of his service in the Navy as a Navy veteran. He makes me look good, but we bounce things off each other, and we're on board on these issues. So we're up to. I guess we're at your service. So.
Well, thank you. Any other comments?
Just want to say thank you to both of you, Phil and Kirk. You guys, you're home runs to me. So thank you.
Touchdown.
Yeah, you're a big touchdown to me, because you're coming down to our level and you're working with us. Thank you.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, man. You know what? We work for the federal government, but we're Americans. I love rural America. I was born and raised in rural America. Rural America is where it is. It's rural America that that protects our country, and it's rural America that saves our country. So I'm grateful to be of service, and it's my pleasure. I'm a peasant too, and I'm proud of it.
Well, thank you for your service to our country, too.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I'll give this to you.
Absolutely. And please extend an invitation to Secretary Rollins, and would love to, if she's able to come out, would love to put together a tour to show her some of the different things we have locally from, we have a state-of-the-art processed water reuse facility here that is the wastewater that comes off the production from the ag. And, we harvest from our fields, we put it through our processing plants, and we clean that water up and harvest nutrients off of it and put it back out on the, it's a really great loop of recycling, and we've got some great dairies in our county. We've got, it's the breadbasket of the Pacific Northwest right here. And so thank you for coming, and look forward to working with you further.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That takes us to Commissioner and Administrator updates.
Thank you,
Administrator.
Oh, pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to update you all. This is going to be a little different. I had folks send in some reports because, as you know, I was gone the previous couple of weeks. So, in a nutshell, had some recent RV-related code enforcement issues. Wes McCard, our Director of Planning, Building, and Economic Development, is working across county lines to try and help ensure that future rental assistance is restricted to approved RV park residents rather than illegal RV locations. And this is becoming a problem. This is becoming an issue, and wanted to thank Wes for not being just sitting back, but being proactive on that. So thank you, Director McCart. Also, some upcoming events. He will be participating in an invite-only roundtable on the Governor's Washington's Water Future Initiative on the afternoon of August 3rd. And then he wanted me to pass along that they are maintaining a high volume of active building and planning permits. Staff are actively refining development codes, including coordinating Title 16 issues with Public Works to update road regulations. So on top of trying to land the comprehensive plan and do the daily work, just wanted to say thank you to Director McCart. Speaking with Council Briggs, we just discussed a couple of different issues that probably not really able to air during prime time, but maybe possibly in future potential executive sessions if it gets there. But just want to thank Mr. Briggs, Council Briggs, for, in my absence, for being here. Thank you, sir. I spoke with Human Services Director Edgar Vega. You gentlemen will know that there was a resignation when I was gone, and so there was permission to go out and hire and have a little bit of overlap so that we can do some training, some cross-training. Corrections, I got a note from Chief Harmon. There was a high volume of offender hospital transports over the past 2 weeks. Staff successfully intervened and transported an incoming high-profile offender to the hospital following a self-harm attempt. Operations remained stable during the boat race weekend. That's always kind of a big, I don't have to tell you all, but it's a big kind of hold your breath moment. And so we felt pretty good about where we were on that. Kim, with Public Records, sent over a report that they received 17 new requests in the last 2 weeks, half of which are already processed and closed. They are managing 27 active records. When I say they, it's she is managing 27 active records, 9 pending clarification, 3 with partial installments sent, and 15 updated with delivery timelines. Receiving Director Erdman's update, Public Works has finished chip sealing 52.6 miles and slightly under budget. So we went over our goal and under budget. Pretty cool. We're outstriping roads and catching up on maintenance issues that were delayed during the chip seal. So that's what they're up to now. Facilities, this week I met, this week the facilities crew met with Brittany Roski to discuss some of the office space rearrangement to better cover their needs. Also been working on reducing some costs on first aid supplies, potentially finding a different avenue. They're also working with the auditor's office on changing their utility billing to P-card purchases and then setting a limit. Tim Kelly right now is out on vacation. He'll be back soon. I owe George, I think I saw him earlier, right when I was going on vacation and before some of the personal stuff that you gentlemen know about, I owe George Dockstetter a phone call back. So George, if you're in the back of the room, I think you are, I'm going to get with you. I was able to tour Lone Crow Farms with Commissioner Bauman, USDA Rural Development Director Kirk Pearson, and his right arm, Phil Eggman. I thought it was just an incredible tour. And also, we had USDA Farm Service Agency Director Pat Bell. Did I mention you, Commissioner Bauman?
You did?
Okay, yeah, Commissioner Bauman was there. Really neat, very innovative. Held meetings with each commissioner to discuss the agenda and get up to speed on what I had missed and also what you were looking for. And then finally, when I was on vacation, one of the things that dawned on me, and maybe the clerk of the board, Alvarez, you could help assist with this, was that and this is under also Commissioner and Chairman Mullins' recommendation that we do a video update. And so I was wondering if we could provide an example of what I would like to do on a weekly basis so that we can correct the record, so that we can get our narrative out, so that when like newspapers might not be accurate or quote us in our entirety, that we'll have our own ability to get the news out. And so here's a little look at that. And I apologize for the time. It's 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Typically, we would try to make these shorter, but enjoy.
No volume.
Where we talk about. Hi there, my name is Brian Danzel and I'm the Franklin County Administrator, and today is going to be the first in a series of videos where we talk about what takes place at the county, what things are happening. And I just wanted to start by taking a look at Benjamin Franklin, who is our county's namesake. And when he was asked at the Constitutional Convention in 1787 by a lady outside of the convention hall, "What kind of government did you give us, Mr. Franklin?" And Mr. Franklin responded with, "A republic, if you can keep it." So with that, one of the things that we think is important in being able to make a good republic or to keep a good republic is good information and good exchange of information and communication. So that's what we're going to do today, to talk about a couple of different things. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the automatic 1% property tax increase that county commissioners can choose to take, but that your county commissioners here in Franklin County have not chosen to take over multiple years. And what this has done is this has allowed hardworking people that live here the ability to hold on to more of their hard-earned money. And it's also at a time when the state of Washington has decreased our funding that we should receive from them. I always tell this story, and it's a good example of where county commissioners started from. But originally, county commissioners were county road commissioners, and they were placed in office and voted into office by the people to be able to take the monies that were levied against your properties and then be able to use those funds to build roads way back in the day. And as we got bigger and as government got to be what it is today and it became more of a political subdivision of the state of Washington rather than a county, a sovereign county, a lot of other things fell under the umbrella. They removed the term road commissioners, and that's how you got the term county commissioners. Why do I bring up road commissioners? Well, something I think that people don't know a lot about would be the fuel tax. I think that people know that we have a fuel tax that is probably a little bit more than people want to pay, but also a portion of that fuel tax pays for what's called the Rural Arterial Program and so many other fine programs that are meant for rural outlying counties that aren't on the I-5 corridor or aren't near I-90. And so with the fuel tax, and I don't think people know this either, we are right now still paying on bonds that were taken during the Mike Lowry administration when Mike Lowry was governor. For those that don't know, Mike Lowry was governor from 1993 to 1997. The other issue is that the state of Washington, it costs 4 times as much to build a mile of road as it does the state of Idaho. You didn't hear me wrong. For every mile of road that we build, it costs Idaho 4 times less. The the state of Oregon, it costs half as much to build a mile of road. So somewhere we got a middleman problem. Well, this comes back to us because then we're tasked with the responsibility of trying to take care of the roads and being able to do so without having to go to the taxpayers and raise taxes 1%, which we have not done. And we've also left every single penny in the Public Works Fund and the Road Fund over the last 2 years, and we look to do that moving forward. So we wish that the state of Washington would take a fiscal approach like Franklin County has, and that way they might be able to do what our namesake says, and that is keep the republic that we have. This is the first in a series of many videos that we'll be making, and I can't wait till the next one. If you have any good ideas or if you have any questions about how your government works, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much.
Okay, and so what you saw there was just an example, but I think that you probably, everybody in the room, I'm guessing, learned a little bit about something about our state history and how things came to be. But also, again, it gives us a platform to be able to get our messaging out from our perspective. I think waiting around and hoping that we're just going to get our own actual facts out is just nonsense. I don't think it's going to happen. And so what I've discussed with staff is that we would do one of those a week, and we would do it in shorter segments, and we would try to do things if there's anything to correct a record, if we're not getting a full print in our word out when it comes to the policies that we've adopted and passed, which I believe all of us would agree that is happening. And it allows, I think, a better transparency. You know, a lot of the people that speak during public comment, they, I think, make really excellent points when it comes to, all the branches needing to be transparent. We just got done talking with USDA Rural Development about the conversations and the transparency and communication. I think maybe the most important communication might be between us and your constituents. That might be the most important communication that we make out of this office. And so I think doing things like that, bringing awareness, bringing a little bit of history will be a way to move forward in a strategic way that also gets your message out in, I think, a pragmatic fashion. And again, if you have any ideas for topics, subjects, anything at all, please let me know, because I'd love to be able to incorporate that into our weekly routine. Thank you.
That'd be great, and I look forward to it, and yeah, I got my mind turning on topics that may be valuable to correct the narrative on a number of things. Jail pizza party, it was a morale booster, and it really went well, and I look forward to doing it again with my own money. Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to compliment you on, was that you spent your own money to help build that morale, so thank you. One comment on the 1%. We're not out of the woods because we didn't vote for it. At any time, if this commission changes, they can reach back in time and grab every one of those 1% that we didn't vote for, so your taxes could go up. If it's been prolonged for 10 years, it's 10% your property taxes will go up. Just a warning. Worksource Development, Todd Samuel, I can't say enough about this chairman. He is incredible. He does a great job, and he is a great man. Farm equipment pullouts. If there's one thing that I'm going to harp on with Kirk, there is this idea of creating these pullouts on county roads so farm equipment can get off the road and traffic can go by. I have witnessed, it was 15 harvesters, 2 bank out wagons, and flag cars. And they had traffic, and it looked like a NASCAR race when those cars they were all looking to try to pass. And it was scary, because it's not a matter of when if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. We're going to have accidents on our farm roads because we don't have the width we need for farm equipment. It's getting bigger. If we had these pullouts, and I've got people that are willing to let their ground, we need clarity on easements, whether we're going to have to increase the easement if we do that, but to allow the farm equipment to get off the side of the road, either pull off and stop or pull up and keep rolling, because they only can go about 20, and let the cars go by before we have a catastrophe of a wreck, because we've got young drivers out there every year. I'm really harping on that because we need to get that started. We need to be the protege for the country of America to do this in rural America. I don't know if any other state's doing it, but we need to step up and be the leaders in this, and we're trying to, but we're limited on funds. Maybe that's something where we could get some help from you on. Got calls from a John Franklin down here, and I talked to Wes McCart on that, and he's going to get a hold of John. Robbie Hayes, neighbor up north, calling about 5 trailers. They're moving in, just what Mr. Danzel spoke about. They're just setting up and they're camping out of these trailers anywhere. And it's private land. We've got it happening. If you just go right over here to King City, on the west side of 395, you're going to see 5 trailers out there. And the people are just setting up and living out of these with no sewer system, no water, no nothing. And I'm making a call out to our sheriffs that they need to start being our code enforcement officer, especially if there's children involved and you know there's drug paraphernalia around. We've got to step up our game. We need to do something. Jeff, it looks like you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I have something I could add on that. So we are aware of some code enforcement issues in the county. Wes and I have been advised about those. And under our code, the planning director or designee, I believe, is the code enforcement officer. And I think it's structured that way because when you're talking about a code violation, our planners and building inspectors are really the experts on what would constitute a violation of the code. It could be problematic to have a deputy, a sheriff's deputy put on the stand, and then a defense attorney is cross-examining them on their education and experience with zoning and subdivision regulations. So I think that's why it's structured that way. We are in the process of amending our code, to make it more streamlined and to move it away from being a criminal violation. We still want that option to criminally prosecute very serious, egregious violations, but we don't want that for every single case. And our code is just kind of clunky right now. So the other thing I would comment on this about is we were planning on utilizing our own code for some enforcement actions, and we came to find out that the administrative office of the courts didn't have those input into their system. I guess there were some hiccups, probably statewide, where municipalities would be trying to enforce their local code, and then when there's a conviction, AOC, the Administrative Office of Courts, isn't able to find that in their system. And so apparently it was leading to problems on the back end in terms of tracking, who committed what crime and, what the elements were and things like that. And so we've been working with AOC to input our code as it is right now into the system. And then we'll have to do that again, unfortunately, once our code is updated. And I need to touch base with district court and see where we're at in that process so we can move forward with current enforcement actions.
Yeah, because if we don't get a jump on it, it's going to get worse and worse, and it's just going to become a bigger problem for Franklin County. So we need to get in front of this and get some things put into paper. I think we do got to clean up our code and get it more specific. I'm going to get a hold of Mr. Erdman. We have some breakthroughs on a gravel road, Holly Drive, where it is heavy truck traffic is pounded through the gravel, and it's nothing but dirt, and it's actually a hazard there. The last thing is another thing I'd like to maybe bring across to Mr. Pearson and Mr. Igman is the fact that in Washington State we have this Climate Commitment Act, and they are taxing us on our carbon output. And I've asked Mr. Danzel, and I've got a fellow person that heard the meeting, and he's actually doing some research. But I was out in the tractor driving one day, and I thought, you know what? I Googled 1 acre of alfalfa. How much carbon does it consume every day, and how much oxygen did it gave me a yearly. The farmers are way ahead in this game. We're consuming carbon. We're creating oxygen. We should be compensated. And we're being hit hard in this state. and you Google an acre of alfalfa, acre of corn, an acre of potatoes, this Franklin County is actually a plus in this Climate Commitment Act, and we need to be compensated for it. And we are being hurt by it. And this is something that I really think we need to do. I've asked Wes, this is one of the things I want Wes to take to the Council of Governments, to the other counties, and maybe we create a coalition of counties wanting compensation. Maybe we can rein in our state a little bit on this reckless abandon that they're coming after us on carbon output instead of the creation of oxygen. I think first it needs to start in our educational system, where they got to go through photosynthesis again so people understand what's going on here. God's creation really does work if we allow it to, and we're not God. We can't clean it up. So
Maybe
that's my end of my report.
maybe start a co-op and we could sell oxygen credits.
Well, that's what they want us to do. Then we're back in their game again. And I think we just need to get the thing off the table.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Commissioner Mullen, are you able to give a report? I'll go ahead and give my report. So, busy week last week. Attended the Washington County's Risk Pool Conference. It was held here in Richland. That was really helpful for travel. It was very, very hot, and thank you to our fellow commissioners that came from all over the state to Richland to spend 3 days here and go through the Washington County's Risk Pool Conference. And through that process, had some really good conversations. One of the conversations that I had, talked to a number of different counties, is about where that they're spending some of their opioid settlement funds, and there's a number of counties that are spending some of their opioid settlement funds on inmate health monitoring within the cells, within the jail. And so spoke with and was invited to take a tour of the Chelan County Corrections. And so we've talked to our chief and captain and our administrator and our risk director, and think that maybe that we'll the five of us will carpool up there and go have a tour and kind of see how that they've been doing it. That's where they've spent some of their opioid funding, and we'd like to learn a little bit more about that. And Jeff, would you share just a little bit about the risk pool and maybe give a report?
Yes, and I would echo your compliments to the commissioners coming out, and also to the risk pool, and just they always put on a great conference, and it's always about something, that's pertinent right now, something that's going on that we need to be aware of. And the focus at this conference was on cyber risk and cybersecurity. And so that was kind of essentially twofold in the presentation. The first was about really, when you're hit with a cyber attack, how you respond to that. And then the second part of the presentation was more about, how do you prevent cyber attacks from occurring? I guess they could have maybe flipped those, but I think it was really based on the order of, the schedules of the presenters. But both presentations were very informative and timely, because what we're seeing, nationwide and really globally is an uptick in cyber attacks. Cyber actors or cyber criminals are getting much more sophisticated. They're starting to use AI, not just to, perform the attacks, but also, to develop malware. And so it's really eye-opening to see, what the threat actors are doing, but also, what we can do here locally to prevent that from happening. I thought, one of the statements I pulled from it that was, really resonated with me was that, cyber risk, or cybersecurity and preventing those threat actors from getting into our system, it doesn't start with IT. I mean, everyone always thinks, well, that's IT's problem. They've got the firewall, whatever. I mean, it really starts with your frontline workers and making sure that they're properly trained so they don't, because I think there's a staggering statistic. It's a very high number. I believe it's in the 90s of how threat actors get in. It's usually through an employee, clicking the wrong link, or, in worst cases, they could be a disgruntled employee. But so it was very interesting. to receive that training, but also to see that, there's more we can do as a county to improve. I do know that we're members of, these IT organizations, but being more involved in those, it's something I want to coordinate with our IT department about to make sure that we're taking full advantage of the training opportunities offered through the pool and our partner organizations. It also kind of dovetails neatly into some of these other trainings that we've done that are outside the risk pool. I know Administrator Danzel and Commissioner Baumann were both there for the CISA training, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency through the U.S. Federal government, which was done in conjunction with our emergency management, Sean Davis, that department. And it's and that's about the worst case scenario when the threat actors do get in and your system shut down. And I thought, I kind of chuckled, but then you go back to paper, which is something I think a lot of us older, attorneys and professionals are more accustomed to, having paper copies of documents. But it's interesting to see how all the training sort of fits together. So very, very informative, always a great, educational experience, going to these conferences, and I'm happy we're with the pool, so.
Thank you, Jeff. That gives us just a couple of thoughts that I'll share. Jeff and I talked about it at length about that it might be valuable for some of the information that we learned to talk with IT about it, and maybe at some point come back, in coordination with you, Brian, to put on somewhat of a workshop. And so 2 different conversations that I had with the risk pool, specifically with Chuck. One question that I asked him is if he would help me learn how for us to be better about our efforts in working with the pool. And because I said we can't do what happened last year, which was the big spike in premiums, and that was pretty much across the pool. And so we had a pretty lengthy conversation about that, and some of the things that we can do, and so that was really helpful. And so he offered to come, for a couple of days that we could set up some of these different trainings, some of the stuff that they offer as we are members of the pool. And so I just told Jeff that I thought it would be wise of him and I to put our heads together a little bit, plan a little bit, and then coordinate so that this fall, when renewals come, that we are more prepared and can answer the questions more aptly than maybe that we were last year. And so, yeah, Jeff, thank you for that. And so that was the first part of my report, is the Washington County's risk pool. That went from immediately following the commissioners meeting last week. It went Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I also had a meeting with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Conservation District, and our Building and Planning Department, Director McCart and his staff. The primary topic was shrub step and the way that we are addressing that with our comp plan. Wes, just want to extend my appreciation for all the effort that you're going through there. I can't describe to everybody under the sound of my voice the effort and the time and the diligence that they are going to ensure that we're having a good product that is understandable, that is comprehensive, and not overreaching. So thank you for that. Meeting with our PA's office, our administrator, preparing for this meeting. Also attended, as you've already heard, the site tour with the Washington State FSA Director, Pat Bell, our 2 guests here in the room, Kirk Pearson and Phil Eggman. Really enjoyed that tour. The Lone Crow meat processing plant, they came and sought and received a conditional use permit for a USDA approved slaughter facility here in Franklin County, and they have just are at the very beginning of the starting of that operation, and I just admire them for. I'm sorry?
Your work on.
Rocky, we can hear you talking. Are you ready to give your report?
No, I already gave my report, but apparently I was muted somewhere.
Sorry about that. You wanna give it another go?
No, that's fine. I was just sending Brian a message, and so now it's recording everything again, so. Basically, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation today, and to thank Wes and Jeff Briggs for working on the RVs that are being illegally parked. And just one other comment I had, that I had some people, of course, complaining about their property taxes, and I just want to say that, the Board of Commissioners has done everything in their power to keep our taxes down. And referencing back to the assessor, most of these taxes are being voted in, and it's then our job to figure out how to pay for them. So we're in a time where you need to be conscious of your vote and stop all this socialism that's taking place. But anyways, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, yeah, just really enjoyed that tour of that processing facility here in Franklin County, and hope that that they can be successful as they grow into that facility. Also received quite a number of calls about taxes, about code violation issues, and having had a number of conversations, certainly with our PA's office, and doing some evaluation there of making sure that the way that we have it set up is proper. So appreciate your efforts there. Appreciate the comments from our district court judge this morning and the update on some of the efforts that they're going through. And the last thing I would say is I really appreciate our Public Works crew, and more than doubling the miles of road, 52.6 miles of chip seal completed in 2026. Pretty proud of that. Thank you, Commissioner, and Commissioner Mullen, for not shifting funds out of our roads so that we can do maintenance. We doubled it from 25 to 26. Can we do it again to 27? Can we do 100 miles of maintenance on our roads? I don't know. That would be an amazing goal. So with that, Mr. Administrator, we are to the correspondence section of our meeting.
Yes, sir, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. And I want to apologize to Commissioner Mullen. We'll get the quirks worked out on the phone system there, so that's on me. The first thing I wanted to just let everybody know, this is kind of maybe more of a community announcement, but the Columbia Basin Veterans Center is putting on their 6th annual Veterans Community Golf Classic on Friday, September 4th, 2026 at Sun Willows Golf Course. And so we think that this is a great cause and a great event, and I'm also going to throw down the gauntlet. If anybody thinks they can come and take me, bring it on. No, I'm just kidding. I think that it'll be fun, and it'll be a great event and a great cause, and so just wanted to get that out there. That's September 4th on Friday, and a lot of different prizes and a lot of different things, but the money and where it goes to is, just an incredible cause. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. The second piece of information that I have for you that I'll take one and then I'll pass down to you is an update on what the end result of engrossed substitute House Bill 2442 was, which changed the way that local governments could utilize certain funding. Now, of course, and I've called this, and I think Director Pearson did back in the day when we were in the Senate, that the state was moving to a model of, instead of shared revenues, that they would allow local municipalities to raise taxes on people rather than having to fund it themselves. So that's kind of the first one that you're looking at, is that we could adopt a 0.1% sales and use tax for children's and families, for a whole myriad of issues. There's a housing sales and use tax that is expanded. I'm going to go all the way down. This is kind of two things that might be a little bit pertinent to what we're talking about. Go to number 3 where it says REAP 2 may fund nuisance property abatement. So there's some more flexibility that the REIT 2 revenues may be used for abating nuisance properties. We're talking about that. And then if you go down below that, two actually, the next couple, we have a rental car sales tax that we already levy, and that can be eligible for use for criminal justice purposes. That's a new change under this bill. Rental car tax receipts may be used for criminal justice purposes broadly defined to include public defenders, diversion, reentry, domestic violence services, mental health crisis response, etc., given the county discretion to direct transient transportation revenue to public safety and supportive programs. And then finally, number 5, county public health clinic levy. Franklin County may impose a separate tax levy up to 5 cents per thousand assessed value for public health clinic operation, maintenance, and capital. This levy is excluded from the $5.90 aggregate limit, but counts against the constitutional 10 per $1,000 cap, enabling a dedicated revenue source for low barrier primary dental, behavioral health, substance use disorder, family health, and reproductive services. So wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because that does change a little bit of the arithmetic and gives us more flexibility. Just wanted to make you aware of that. But also, it goes back to something that you said, Commissioner Didier, which is when we were talking about the taxes and not raising the 1% each year, you're right on that. This is only as good as, it's councilmatic, in other words. And what that means is that it doesn't require a vote of the people, it just requires a vote of the council. So, wanted to give you a heads up on that. The next piece that I have is from US Cellular, and then it's also accompanied by a letter from Michael Namchek with our IS. And this is evidently, again, this is when I was gone, but this has to do with the non-renewal or termination of the Colotis Tower site from US Cellular. And then all the activities that Michael has undertaken, Mr. Namchek has undertaken. And if he's asking if there's anything else that you gentlemen or Mr. Briggs would like for him, Council Briggs would like for him to undertake. So that may be worth your perusal.
Right, and I could add something to this correspondence. We had directed the ICE department to come back with a contract from Gunnarsson. Apparently, I misunderstood what IS needed from us. Gunnarsson is prepared to act essentially on a handshake deal without a written contract and help us resolve this tower lease issue. And then IS has assured me that we can bill out the partner agencies that are utilizing that lease out there. So we can essentially share in the cost of that consulting. And the purpose of that is to get the lease transferred to BCES.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Briggs. The final piece is just an email that I received from Coroner McGarry, and so I'm just going to pass this down. I think it's a request that's well asked, and it has to do with having folks that are on call as Benton County terminated our agreement for autopsies. And so it wouldn't go over budget. It would be within the scope of budget. It just would be more bodies and more people that are on call. And so that's a request that's for you gentlemen to take and decide and think on or act on, but it's not up for me to be able to add any positions or anything like that. So just wanted you gentlemen to have that and peruse that and see what your thoughts there are. And then if you wouldn't mind, just so that I can respond to Coroner McGarry, if you would want to let me know within maybe the next couple weeks, that way that he could prepare if he's going to go out to add, if you approve it, or if not, then I can tell him either way, if that makes sense. And gentlemen, that is the end of our correspondence.
Thank you. Takes us to our second public comment period. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Please come to the podium, and you would have 3 minutes.
Marcy Torres with Franklin County. I wanted to share with you, Jerry Davis was prosecuted by his colleagues. His attorney, Megan Whitmire, asked for a lower sentence Judge didn't agree. Judge has retired since the sentencing, and he served the lower sentence anyway. There was another case where a woman committed the same crime, wasn't an attorney, and Jacqueline Stam sentenced her to 20+ years in jail. Gilberto Mendoza was supposed to go to federal prison, and he is currently in Franklin County. Was prosecuted by his friends, and his case was presided over with Norma Rodriguez, Bronson Brown, and Dave Peterson. That's a conflict of interest. Dan Catherines, I have been looking at the CJC complaints that had previously been filed. Dan Catherines, who's a sitting judge, a court clerk asked him a question about the docket that had just ended, and he responded as he sat in the chambers, "I have 9 inches." So they filed a CJC complaint. These are the people that are representing this community, by the way. Sounds like they've gotten away with a lot more than they should. It's disgusting. Bruce Banner, there was a CJC complaint. The case started after Judge Spanner on his own entered an order in a case that was not actually before him. He accused attorneys of acting with perhaps nefarious motives without any evidence presented in court. Instead, the commission found he relied on courthouse gossip and speculation. The commission concluded he denied the attorney due process because he is findings and legal conclusions without giving them notice or an opportunity to be heard. It also found his actions created an appearance of bias and undermined public confidence in the courts. The commission also found his order unfairly damaged the attorney's professional reputation and hurt respect for the judiciary. As part of the discipline, Judge Spanner admitted violating several judicial ethic rules, agreed to complete judicial ethics training, agreed not to repeat the conduct, and receive a public reprimand. Our police department, Brandon Upton, a woman called police for help after a domestic violence incident. The officer assigned to protect her is accused of using his position to start a sexual relationship with her while he was still investigating her case. The lawsuit claims he knew she was vulnerable and used the power he had as he was investigating officer to pressure and manipulate her. It also alleges he visited the home while on duty, turned off his body camera before entering, asked her to remove her home security cameras, requested explicit photos and videos, continued handling her domestic violence case while pursuing her personally. I will continue next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brian Thornhill, Franklin County. So I'll give you guys a chance to put your money where your mouth is. Because you guys just talked about transparency, right? That do the honorable right thing by your citizens. So I started with the fire department like 15 years ago, worked the first 9 years, didn't take anything, just got it established. I was a planner for the nuclear power plant. So I did revisions, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So there was an issue that came up in an exercise that you discussed, that Mr. Bauman and I have discussed. And I had a concern at the exercise. I talked to the emergency management director, and he says, yes, I know there's an issue. We need to talk about it. So he ghosted me for 3 or 4 months. So then emails went through. We had discussions. We set up a meeting. That meeting was recorded. One of my fire commissioners that you know very well said during that meeting, they didn't give me a chance. And you can talk to him. Didn't give me a chance. One of the things that you guys have used against me is that there's these investigations that were done, right? These investigations were done. I presented them to you and Mr. Mullen. And in that investigation, one of the questions was, or one of the statements was that Fire District 5, before it was established, had all these other fire agencies come and respond. And we know that's a false statement. All my commissioners said it. So I asked Mr. Didier, will you confirm that? Before Fire District 5 was established, did other fire agencies come out? The other thing that came out was that Franklin County Emergency Management had, per their charter, had authority over Fire District 5. This was an investigation you guys used against me. Franklin County Prosecuting Attorney's Office came against it and said, no, they do not. So you guys are holding those two statements against me. The third one, the other issue I want to bring up is Mr. Baumann keeps talking about this other investigation where these FBI agents flew down here and everything. So if that, and so I asked for a public records request to find out what you're talking about. Never received it. So I don't think that's correct. You're aware of that now. Multiple, and you guys are supposed to handle that public, the prosecutor's office. I asked for public in writing, and they haven't done it, haven't returned them. So if that was on, if that investigation was based off of the tunnel collapse, so a real exercise event happened, a real event. Fire District 5 was not dispatched how we would normally be done. They had a failure in the system. So I made a concern about that. I never received, nobody contacted me about this investigation, but evidently I believe that's what the investigation, they had a failure. So I can prove they had a failure, so you're using that against me, that I had a legitimate concern that there was a failure for notifying Fire District 5 in response to a true emergency. And you're saying, I should apologize, I'm not saying that was what exactly happened because I don't know because I didn't get the public records request. Thank you.
Thank you for your
So if you wouldn't mind
comments.
answering that question, Mr. Didier, I'd appreciate it.
Is there anybody further for public comment?
Yes, first, Mr. Briggs, I'm not the one who witnessed it. Somebody told me that was there, and it was someone who was a pastor, so I took their word. So I apologize if that was incorrect. But I do believe that because of the conflict with Nikki Torres, that we should have had an outside counsel. But I want to clarify. The first thing Nikki's attorney asked me was, "Are you an attorney?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm here in support of Mr. Weiss." So what was witnessed here was false. I've never gotten a law degree. I've never claimed I had a law degree at all. So not an attorney. Wasn't there to be an attorney. Was there to be a friend and actually someone as an advocate for him because he does have PTSD. And I take care of my mother-in-law. She is a paraplegic, and I understand that there are certain accommodations for people with disabilities, but we weren't given any. I just want to point that out. So the other thing is that in the stalking laws, I kind of wanted to read this a little bit because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what stalking is. So according to the Washington State RCW, it's intentionally and repeatedly harassing another person, intentionally and repeatedly following another person, intentionally contacting, follow, track, monitor, attempt to contact, follow, track, or monitor, goes on, knowingly and without consent installing, monitor, electronic tracking device, and then there's exceptions for children and for private eyes and stuff like that. So the point that I'm making is the young kid who was following, who had gone to our county auditor's page, then was directed to the Secretary of State, and at that time, the procedure to figure out if someone actually lives where they claim they live, and he was following that direction, and was arrested for stalking, for sitting in his car speaking to nobody. And in fact, it was Torres's daughter who came and knocked on the window and said, "You need to leave," and he said, "Okay," and did. And 2 hours later, after he was bicycling, he was several, I think it was 10 officers and drones and 8 police squad cars came. And because he had been bicycling, he had gloves on him and a face mask. Anyone knows that if you're a speed biker, you're going to eat bugs if you don't wear a face mask. And they used that as a warrant to get his phone. And in that phone, he had private conversations with another private citizen. And those text messages had no crime in there. And we know they had no crime because they're not in the police report. And yet somehow they were leaked to the Tri-City Herald, much like what happened to Commissioner Mullen and our auditor by Mr. Kronmeyer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody further for public comment?
Anyway, yes, you do want to create a coalition of counties. That's what we've been proposing. And I will read that article Okay. Article 1, Section 10, subsection 3. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, like Hawaii, California, Oregon, with a medical alliance, or with a foreign power, which is where Canada and this whole compact, this Climate Commitment Act is made. I would submit that you would go to the DOJ or someone and say, we still have a lingering unconstitutional compact between Washington State that was done under the auspices of prior administrations that didn't do anything illegally, drilling you for all of your personal information on your land. They do the same thing with what's called Medicare. That's why we want Medicare for all. I don't have Medicare. Yet when I go to a doctor's office, I'm asked if I have guns in my house, and it's a surveillance tool. That's what the Obama administration and the Biden administration did. They created everything that we interact with as citizens as a surveillance system, and that's what you're under. Okay? So I would suggest that with the help of USDA contacts, that we start addressing that Climate Commitment Act as unconstitutional. And it finishes up, unless actually invaded, or the foreign power to engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as would not admit delay. I will tell you that I was here in the courthouse and I saw 6 families lined up getting passports for their babies because of the horrible decision of the Supreme Court, and that's an opinion. That is not lawful. Because under Section 9, it says the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when case of rebellion or invasion of public safety require it. When Washington State gets invaded by over 1 million people and they're not naturalizing, you can't get a job at McDonald's if you don't speak Spanish. And then when you pull up and you say, I want to make an order, they say, use app, because they don't speak English. And then I may be connecting the dots wrong, but McDonald's in Ireland is hiring the aliens, not the citizens. I kind of think the same thing's happening here. So you start with a protected First Amendment petition under Amendment 1 of the U.S. Constitution and under Article 1, Section 4 of the Washington State Constitution. So the Nick Browns and those people that give McKinstry sole requirement for all the green energy stuff that we have to put on our properties like Hapo, and that's not looked at, you ought to talk to your legislators, because the counties organize the state. Then the legislators were elected to represent us. And somehow it seems very archetypical that the governor and the legislative branch are dictating to what the people want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody further for public comment?
Andy Revis, Franklin County. I want to thank the gentleman from the USDA for coming and doing the presentation, and thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate government entities trying to work together to help the citizens. That's awesome, and I appreciate you guys for what you've done to help that too. Last week after the commissioners meeting, I had some courthouse business, and I went downstairs to some property information I needed. Went downstairs, and they was like, well, we just reflect what the auditor's office shows upstairs. So I went upstairs to the auditor's office, and they said, why'd they send you up here? They've got the information downstairs. So we need to work on a little bit, maybe in our courthouse too. And then they're like, well, why do they do this? They don't work. Yeah, it was kind of frustrating because they were pointing fingers back and forth, and that's what I've experienced many times in the family court, with law enforcement pointing to CPS, CPS pointing to law enforcement, nobody taking the responsibility ever. And so I do appreciate what they're doing to work together and get the government entities to work together. Because the same thing when I'm working with the FSA for an operating loan for my farm, pointing back and forth, go to this place, go to that place, and nobody seems to know who's doing what. And if everybody can work together, that makes a much cleaner, smoother. And we've talked about it here as far as efficiency with our dollars. We don't need to be paying people to go back and forth when we can be efficient with the money that we do have, working together. And, and I think we can all learn from each other in the different departments. And when a department decides that I am the one that's taking care of this and nobody else needs to help me, then we've got a problem where we can all work together. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Is there any further public comments?
Marie Redout again from Benton County. I guess a couple things. When we come here and present information, we're trying very hard to do the accurate information that we're presenting on actual reports that we've read or that we've witnessed personally. We're not speaking on something that somebody else said to make an accusation against another person. So if I'm not seeing what happens myself, I'm not going to come out and say that Mr. Briggs did a high five unless I witnessed it personally. That's not good integrity, and that's not what we're trying to do. I want public comment to remain accurate. I want it to remain something that you can listen to us and understand that we're not going to give you a bunch of baloney information. Okay. The other thing is, I haven't heard about a ski mask or face mask or gloves. That was not in the police report. So I'm not sure how a 21-year-old man is going to say that that's what he wears for biking. I've never seen a biker wear that. That's interesting information, firsthand information that's not in a police report. Interesting. Also, that would not be something that I would be able to comment on because I can't read it for myself or see it anywhere other than a statement here. I think that the integrity that needs to be presented when we're talking to people about other people is just that. It needs to be on us to be upright and honest and have some integrity with what we're saying. I would like to say that I will present as much of that as possible in the future, and I'll always be conscientious about that, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? We'll close public comment. I have a question that Commissioner, certainly you could weigh in if you wanted, or Administrator, or Mr. Briggs. We've had one of our public commenters come up here and attack at different times the different ones of us commissioners and each of you and people. My question is a proper process or procedure. Mr. Thornhill has been doing similar to we've seen him do today. He's been doing it for more than a dozen years. And when I came into office as a commissioner, I took it very seriously, the accusations that he made, and I studied for dozens and dozens and dozens of hours. I read volumes and volumes of information. I read emails until I would fall asleep at night, trying to dig in and understand and having a background on the issue. And what I found the issue to be is he didn't agree with everyone else. Do we just need to simply take it? And he has made today. He made a blatantly false information about a misguided statement about something that I have said in the past. And so could you weigh in on that of do we just have to simply take it when we are lied about or there's blatant false information provided?
There is, the board has adopted, I don't know the precise name of it, but it's a code of conduct. And within that document it does curtail a little bit of, it speaks to decorum and that, no one who comes to the meeting should be directing personal attacks at anyone. So the board could enforce it that way, and you could say arguably because of that adoption of that document that we've limited the scope of the forum that we have here because, it's a First Amendment protected forum. Obviously, we're at at a public comment. It's also statutorily protected that we are required to have public comment at every regular meeting under the OPMA. But the board can restrict that public comment. A lot of agencies will restrict it to items that are on the agenda, for example. So they do have that authority, and I think we've already exercised that to a certain extent in terms of limiting, like not personalizing attacks. We shouldn't be getting up here and, engaging in ad hominem type of attacks, attack against the person rather than attacking, the policy. Because I think, debate about public policy is very important. And although I'm not a commissioner and I'm not the one that has the right to restrict that, I would encourage the public to come in and offer their 2 cents. I think that's why the board has 2 public comment periods too, so that the public can weigh in on actions that it just took. So we get that sort of immediate feedback. So the public doesn't have to wait a week to let us know that they don't agree with, or they do agree with action that we just took as a board. So I guess the shorter answer is yes, there is action the board can take, and they can limit the scope. It isn't like the sidewalk outside where anyone can go. The Westboro Baptist Church can show up and have heinous pictures, and they can yell terrible things to people on the street. That's the most protected public forum are sidewalks and areas like that. Here it can be restricted, and it's just really on the board how it would like to pursue that. But yeah, I do think in terms of what you said about Mr. Thornhill, it does kind of boil down to just a miscommunication. I think on one level, we're all agreeing on the same thing. I spoke with Sean Davis about it. I reviewed the materials that Mr. Thornhill has presented to me, and I took it seriously too. And Mr. Thornhill and I kind of have a similar background because he does hazard material response as a firefighter, and that was actually in my wheelhouse in the National Guard. I was trained by firefighters on how to respond to large-scale chemical spills that might result from a terrorist attack. And so I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with emergency management generally. And so I was interested in what he had to say and to look into that for him. And there's a fundamental misunderstanding that we're having regarding the role of Franklin County Emergency Management and Mr. Thornhill. It's interesting because I don't really see there being a disagreement at all. We all agree that Franklin County Emergency Management cannot direct Fire District 5 or any fire district on how it responds to an emergency. They can just do a request for help, assistance under the mutual aid agreements that we have. And it's important for us to work out those types of issues because we don't want to have those in the event there is an emergency. We're fighting over who has jurisdiction. Franklin County Emergency Management, would be the, they're basically the, the responsible agency, the emergency management. They're sort of, there's a top-down structure to emergency management, and they're at the top. But the interesting part of that structure is these agencies that are all part of the plan that work together, they can say no, right? They have autonomy, so it's not, like the military where you could just direct somebody and say, you shall do this. So there's just a misunderstanding with Mr. Thornhill. I talked to him about it more, but I feel like we're agreeing, and then he's not understanding what we're agreeing on, so.
And you described it well, that it's a voluntary relationship, and that is primarily in the context of what we're describing, encapsulated in the REP plan, the Radiological Emergency Plan, and Fire District 5 withdrew from that many years ago, and I believe that they just come back into that or in that process. But my question wasn't as much as what he says against myself or my fellow commissioners. For me, it's more about attacking those that work and serve Franklin County, and so Brian, I've talked to you about this at length. Anything you would like to share or thoughts that you would have on that? for the reason of not knowing what to do, think that maybe I should go and prepare for any of the public that would like to see those reports, prepare copies for them or thumb drive or something. I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about how to do that. But for more than a dozen years, I'm a new player in this conversation, but I believe it needs to stop because there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of bad information that keeps getting put out there, and it's simply not true. And so that's why I was wondering, not to quiet any voice, absolutely, but to respond with the truth and not from me. My name is not on the pages. It's everybody. There's been investigations from the U.S. Department of Justice to the State Emergency Management to FEMA to all of this stuff, and I'm concerned about those that work hard to serve the county.
Right, and if I could just add, I'm glad you mentioned FEMA because FEMA was at our last, as they're at all of them, all of our rep drills that we run, and they were very impressed with Franklin County Emergency Management, Sean Davis. They said that it is, and they go all over the country, that it's, top shelf, that they run an excellent, tight ship, that our plan is implemented well. There's great communication. And not just Franklin County. I mean, these drills are run in conjunction with Benton County because the risk, of the Columbia Generating Station impacts both counties. And it's refreshing to see that, the counties might not get along on everything, but we have employees in emergency management that are working together to achieve a common goal to ensure public safety in the event of a catastrophic event. And, it makes you feel good to know that the feds are coming in and overseeing this and saying, you guys are doing a great job. And so, yeah, I would just leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman, and if I might add, if we do have a nuclear incident, yeah, we're going to start the process, but we're not going to be in control. It's going to be the feds coming in here taking control of the situation. So as Mr. Thornhill thinks he's got priority or Fire District 5, we have no priority over any incident in Hanford. The feds will be in here. First the state will be here, then the feds are here. We're all in the back room. They're taking over. So as much as he wants to be the leader in any nuclear plan or a happening, he's not going to be.
Right. It would be a question of who the incident commander would be over that. And so when you're talking about multiple counties, you're right. It could be a federal entity that becomes but you still have that voluntary relationship. They can't commandeer agencies, and I don't think anyone was ever saying that. It may have just been a misunderstanding. But you're right, Commissioner Baumann. This issue seemed like it was put to bed by FEMA 10 years ago, and
it was put to bed in 2012, then 14, then 15, then 17, then 18, then 19, then 22, 24. When I came in, it came up again, 25, now 26, and there's no answer that I can provide or anybody else. I'm not providing answers. I wasn't a part of it, but I mean, there's been investigations, like full-blown investigations done by FEMA, and FEMA came to the conclusion that it was an unfounded issue, and so, yeah, please.
I think on the transparency front, that was brought up, and that I think was the key here. I think what we should do, what I'd like to do, with your permission, this is all public knowledge because it came in the form of a public email, is provide the emails where Mr. Thornhill tells you gentlemen how you're going to vote in a meeting before the meeting takes place. And so if we want full transparency and we want to see where this actually began, it began with emails that I received that dictated how you were going to vote and what was going to be said and how you were going to vote. And it would have violated the Open Public Meeting Act. And I had conversed with legal counsel on it. But this is all very public. So what I think I'll do is I think I'll make for next week's meeting available those public documents, those email back and forth. I'm proud of how I reacted and operated during that time. And everybody can see, because transparency is only powerful if it works both ways. So we can see both what's being said and how it's responded to. And those are public documents.
Mr. Chairman, there's one other thing that was brought up about public comment. I want everybody to know that Franklin County has 2 public comment periods. You go to any other commissioner meeting, there's only one, and it's usually before the agenda is taking place so that they can weigh in on any decisions that are going to be made. We don't have ours restricted just to the content of the agenda either. We're allowing people to come in and speak freely. So I think that Franklin County is going over and above and beyond on public comment. And I don't want to see it stopped. I'm willing to take the beating that I take sometimes here at the public mic. I got feathers like a duck. It slides right off, so it doesn't bother me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Council and Administrator. That's helpful. I'm used to the public meetings we get upon occasion, and I won't say that I'm okay with it, but I've gotten used to it and know how to handle it. But when I watch somebody else being attacked, I don't like it and want to know if there's a proper process for response. So thank you for that. I'd be in favor of that. That takes us to executive session. Mr. Counselor, what do we have need for?
No.
No need for executive session. Any other business, sir? Any other? With no other business, and for the good of this county, this meeting is adjourned.